My name is Sara Kim. I own a studio called Diagonal Thoughts based in Seoul. And although I run an architecture studio, I do so many different things. But it's because that's how people perceive me, not that I think I do so many different things. Because at the end, I think I'm in search of what space is generally and how people related to it mostly. So be able to do that, I started doing film with a really good team, and also I make furnitures, but also I get to invited to the museum to installations, and also invited as not only as an architect to do pavilions, but also the artwork itself. I also teach at school. And personally, I think myself as an activist doing very small things to make society different. For instance, a female going to a site with very long hair. So I present myself as a social gender. And yeah, pretty much it. So, but everything at the end, I'm in search of like space, and I don't know how to define spaces. And how I found architecture is it's something very close to represent when I'm trying to present myself in the society. My case was I was discovering step by step since I was a little girl around 7, I guess. I always liked drawing and making stuff, and you know when I played, I had maybe like 30 collections of a Barbie doll, and I used to play that a lot with friends. But I wasn't interested doing a role play. I was more interested in setting up an infrastructure for each characters. So each spaces would represent the person who's doing the role. And this is really, I figured out during my master's degree in the States that I was interested in people's environment, like surroundings. And because I'm coming from one of the most conservative family, although I like drawing a lot, and I was picked as a representative of the school from elementary school, middle school, and high school. I would go to the contest and do drawings, and I won the prize. My parents weren't happy me doing arts, so I really didn't know. But just my instinct was telling me I wanted to do design. I wanted to create something really big in a 3D. So as a high school girl, what I can think was, oh, that's probably the mobile design. So I ended up in a design school, and after a week, I figured that this is not the right path for me. But in that curriculum, there were mobile design, product design, and environment design, which slowly opened to me. So every step was very subtle. So I did not know what I want to do until my graduation in college. And then after school, I got a job in a corporate firm in Korea. And I was designing like retail shops and windows because I thought I wanted to do something with people's behavior and the space. So that was something a little bigger than I can think than retail. But I didn't like it at all either, because it was only about like the people I don't know. And all the inspiration has to come outside of me. So I feel often lost. What am I doing? Because I feel like just to understand who I am and understand the human being, it has to come from the essence of the space and the human. But all these retails and commercials, like they're crazy about like making things which doesn't exist and make people believe, and that I felt very lost. So I decided I need to know what's going on. So I decided to study abroad because I did not know, until then I did not know I would do architecture. So because I'm coming from a design, like art background, I applied to Rhode Island School of Design, and luckily I got in, and it was the school I really wanted to go. Because I feel in this society, because Korea is built really fast, like people are culturally developed, but there's something missing, which I don't know. So I was in search for that. I wanted to find what is it, and to understand the essence of human being and the world. And during my master degree, the RISD was a perfect fit for me. I loved the school. That really changed my perception and support me to be who I am now. The school was very abstract, but it was more about, we never learned the skills in school, but it was more about guiding us how to think, what to think, and what to concern. So it was really about like thought-provoking process that I earned so much from RISD. So that was a gift. And as I said earlier, 3 years in RISD really enrich myself to think of who I am and how I want to connect the world and how I want to live and what I want to pursue. So then I decided I wanted to architecture. I have to say I have many mentors. Not the mentors I mean like who's older than me, but I have friends who helped me out to survive in the States. But for instance, the first mentor I can think is maybe because I was very young, we didn't have much interactions, but it was an art teacher in my middle school who told my mom that it was the first time she actually saw me being very focused when I was doing some design for the contest. So I guess I was very like scattered and being everywhere when I was little, which I don't recall much. But I remember I was always outside, like playing with friends. I didn't come home to dinner, so my mom had to come find me. And then she told that to my mom and suggesting maybe you could send her to some art institution to see like how she dealt with it. So, and that, although I was very little, I remember them having the conversation, and then I strongly remember the part. So that certainly changed my perception. So I call her my first mentor in my life. And then the way how I started architecture is a professor I met in RISD. I mean, I have so many between the time, in RISD, at RISD there were many interesting courses which doesn't exist in any other school, I think. Mm-hmm. There's a graduate seminar called like core sample. So it's almost like a psychotherapy class. I felt like some of the colleagues were actually crying doing that. So it was like really try to find out your past life and understanding the important moments it influence you to find the right topic for your thesis. So those kind of classes very strong. And one of the architecture studio I took at my third semester was called This Remember to Unforget. I mean, I don't know. Some people would think that's a joke. It's like a pretentious way try to say something, but it doesn't really say anything. But that title really hit me, and the studio was really good. So the professor Pablo Castro, although my English was not as fluent, but he understood what I'm trying to do. And he was one that's telling me like, you're an architect. So that really hit me. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was like that. And of course, after school, like working in a different firm, the person I met in Korea was Byung-Soo Cho. He was one of the mentors too, I have to say, because my portfolio was very different than anybody else. I already knew it because RISD is already a very avant-garde school and it doesn't belong anywhere. But then people like appreciate the school does things differently. But then when it comes to hire someone, like where out of nowhere. Like these kids are often way too serious, but they're not skillful. They talk a lot and think a lot, being critical, they're really good at it. But then, okay, so drawings by tomorrow, and then we get nothing. But he understood, and I understood his work so much too. So that made me grow as an proper person in architecture, I think. I learned a lot, like practical stuff there. I never feel I belong to anywhere because I lived only in Korea and the States, and I lived in the States for 8 years, including my childhood. So mostly I was born and raised in Korea. But I went to 5 different elementary schools, so I was always moving around. And I never lived in one place more than 3 years of my life until I start my own studio in Seoul. Now I can say I'm settled here, but I was everywhere. So I was always the odd or the black sheep, even in Korea, wherever I go, because it's not me moving to one neighborhood to another neighborhood. I was actually jumping around different cities and province, and then still south part of Korea speaks different, has different accent. So I think I already told you this while we're going to Daegu. Like people in Daegu area, they have really thick accent. So in my 3rd year, I did not understand what's going on in school. So I was left behind, and the teacher couldn't stand me anymore. So she told my mom to come to school to consult. But then my mom's stubborn too because I'm from her, so she didn't come. So I was always like that. So I don't know, I don't belong to the place itself, and I don't even know the space or place could be something physical that you can explain. It's maybe the memory that we have. So I remember, like, if you talk like strong places, I remember the sky of the Providence. This is maybe in Seoul, although we have this open sky, I was never able to look up. I don't know why. And then it was very first time when I arrived in the States in Providence, I realized, oh wow, I remember all the sunset. And the Providence is nearby the ocean, so I remember this wave of the river and a lot of shadow somehow. So like it's fragmental spatial experience I remember than like actual city or the spot. I remember we worked together in one of the project, but now it's one of my best friend. She lives in Berlin, and I remember the sun coming in through her window. That's one of the recent experience I really appreciated. It's not many people ask where you're from these days in Korea, but then often like, where's your hometown? But really, I don't really have a hometown because I never lived in a place more than 3 years. So if hometown is somewhere where you live the longest, then I have to say now. Seoul is my hometown. But I'm born in Seoul. I happened to be in Seoul because my last job was in Seoul, and I thought I'm ready to start my own, or at least to navigate, like how do I want to start. But although I'm in Seoul, I never wanted to define myself I'm here. After living in the States, maybe I didn't fully experience North America, but I do experience like the globe, because all the young kids who has a dream, who wants to change their life or challenge their life, come to New York, and that's where I start my first job as an architect. And I felt so much energy there, and everybody's lost because you just got out of school. American kids has crazy loans you have to pay back. But the thing I miss about New York is we had dream. And then coming back Korea, yes, but this society is very, it's much smaller in there. And it's not as diverse. So people dream here, but have different dreams. They more want to settle. But in New York, I feel because I was much younger then, like people were dreaming to challenge their life, and that's something I miss being there. So even now, although I'm based here, I do projects. I'm trying more to work everywhere, which is amazing. But I think because I don't really have like language barrier. I think I'll have a better chance if I keep up my work. But yeah, it doesn't really mean where you are. The world is much smaller now. And like how I met you, like architecture scene is very small, so somehow we're connected by everyone. The studio is called Diagonal Thoughts. And my last day at the job was 2013, December 31st. So I know the very next day, which is next year, I wanted to start setting up my own studio. And I wasn't fully ready. I mean, nobody's ready to do anything, but I thought maybe I can start teaching aside and slowly think of what I wanted to pursue as an architect instead of starting the project right away. And I had a project talking with a client, but it wasn't unsure. So I got a teaching position at school. And at the same time, I was thinking of how do I want to name my studio. So probably it came naturally after like 7-8 months, the same year. But by then, luckily, I got a project by then. So I did not have a project from like a project that it would definitely start when I started my own. Because I thought, I really thought I needed time to figure out what my statement is as an architect. I mean, still I'm building up, and I think things evolve by projects and by years. But at least I wanted to know like what I wanted to do, and I knew what I want to do something, but it's hard to be very clear of who you are, I think, and many people are lost in that way because, of course, in school that you get to ask what your statement is, what your concept is, but that's also by under the system. So when you're really out of any system and all by your own, then what do you say? So that the same year I got a teaching opportunity in Aarhus School of Architecture in Denmark and also in Hawaii. So I was traveling a lot. So little by little, I was in search of what I want to do, and then I guess now I run the studio by myself. But I had a partner back then who joined me after a year, and probably it took us like 5-6 years. We worked without staffs because we wanted to figure out what we want to do first. So we were already building projects at buildings and even the housing complexes, but we did a lot of experiments, like for instance making films to test like different spatial qualities and question ourselves, but also put the statement out like what spaces or what architecture should be. And we were doing so in the film we worked with a performing artist and the videographer and the photographer and a sound artist. So through that experience it was very nice to understand the different vocabulary of different people coming from creative profession. And that really broadened us, and not to be stubborn what architecture should be, because at the end I don't believe architecture is a building. Building is one of the output in architecture, but architecture can be expressed in many different media. So that really somehow shaped my it's not a goal, but I would say a path to pursue architecture. Basically, it's hard to survive as an architect everywhere around the world. But yes, I have to say there were much more opportunity in Korea. Well, economic status is not so great now, but there were a lot of private clients wanted to build like small housing units in the city, and because the 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 size of the project is not as big, so they cannot really go to the big architects, and the budget too. So they will find the young rising architects to do it. So there were many of them, but now because of the interest rate, those kind of projects died. So it's making us difficult at the moment. But there are a lot of government competition too. So if you really want to pursue it, there is a way. But yeah, maybe I'm not the right person to ask, because I don't really believe in social system or social status. Because as I said, I was always nobody wherever I go. I didn't belong anywhere because I'm coming from other places. So it's really about like individual, how you pursue your way. Like for me, I told my students, like, if I can do architecture, everybody can do it. It's about how much you believe you want to do this. I know this sounds very naive, but that's my experience in this practice. And of course, it's a tough job. Starting is difficult, but then keeping your business is, I have to say, much more difficult than starting your own. Because you can start as a paper architect, you can start teaching in a school and then making statements without building it. And there were many architects who actually built their career back in the days, like start your own book and then have your name out, and then the opportunity to actually build come later. So it's really about, and not only architecture, it's about like how you find your own path. Way is there. It's on you, how you see the world. Having a license doesn't mean you have a job. That doesn't guarantee anything. That's what I'm saying. I don't believe in this system. There are probably more architects who has license and doesn't have a job. And a lot of famous Korean architects now who's leading the scene study abroad, and they didn't achieve Korean license. So that's very interesting. But younger architects, they tend to more get the license because the system changed and the time is shortened than before. But still, that doesn't guarantee. I'm not a full-time professor. When I gather with our colleagues, we talk about like about the school system, how it should be, and it's interesting that actually we feel like the education is going backwards. And also we talk about whether architecture can be taught or not. I mean, we can teach like system and process, but after you're learning all that, that doesn't guarantee you can actually be a practice architect or, you know, run your own studio. And not that everybody has to do your own stuff, but like learning skills in school is not enough when you go to work. You're learning from the beginning again. So then what are we actually teaching, you know? So that's one of the topics that we often talk about. So that's what it is in Korea, I guess. But really, like, from far away, it looks all the same. But when you actually, I get invited to a school final reviews as a guest critic, then I see the difference by the professor and by the school. They're pushing to have own character of each. I want to believe in that way. And for me, I think I get invited by different schools because they know I would do something different. And I do whatever I think I believe in, I think. And mostly, this might be very dangerous to say, but I felt like the students in Korea are tamed. So through the architecture process, architecture curriculum, I really tried to get them out of the box. And if I success in that way, I think I did well. Architecture is just a tool for me in architecture school. basic stuff we talked about, like plans, sections, but I don't really focus that much on how to draw sections because they will learn it anyway and they can learn from other professors as well. But for me, my education at RISD was very special, and I tried to bring that attitude to the Korean school so the society could be more diverse in a way and people like me can survive. I feel I was the odd and black sheep all the time, but then now I get to know more architects and seeing some of your interviews as well. Everybody think they were the odd. So that's why I told you, now I didn't really have that many friends. And now in my life path, I have so many friends compared to any other period of my life. So is it really because we're the group of all the odds or what happened? Yeah, I was a curator for the fourth Architecture Biennale, and I was in charge to do the on-site project, which was building outdoor architectural installations, pavilions. And that was the first time me working as a curator. And most of the time for me, even in my studio, like the first phase of project is very important, like finding a reason to do this project. Like thought process would actually shape the final output. So once I found the right concept for it, then I thought the project is done. And then building that's default. That's something that everyone is actually doing it. But after this creator job, my perception a little bit changed, because as much as I like to name the project, I love naming projects. So the name of my projects are very much like storytelling, have their own characters of it, like a small universe. But after the curating work, I didn't build anything, right? I mostly organized, I planned it, and then I was seeing more the overview of it. And I felt like the project's it's not done by myself. I feel like it's somebody else's project somehow. So that I realized I actually love building as much as finding the soul of the project. So that was pretty much my past 8 months. And it's still ongoing because now we're working on the final catalog of it. And upon that, now we are about to start a new construction, like 2 hours away from Seoul, called Hongcheon area. We're designing a small vacation house. We call stay in Korea. That's very new to me too. Like, oh, sorry, designing stay means like people, it's a vacation house, or it's like more like a small, like a rent out housing units for. So going back to what we're doing is we're designing a small stay for kids with pools. So that's about to start. And starting next week, we're going to start a new project. That's like 6 hours away from here. Well, we're aiming to build less as much as it can and use less material with a wooden structure. So the contractors contact me to do some experiment with this. So that's something I'm looking forward to it. You know, like, we are the builders. We have to build, otherwise our profession would disappear. But I don't think it's a time that we have our goal shouldn't be to build infrastructures. I don't think we need that anymore. So then what do we do from now, right? Eventually people will still need a lot of shelters for different functions, but if we have to do it, then I wanted to try differently. Who was the architect that I really like and I posted on my Instagram? You gave the same answer.
Peter Eisenman.
Yeah, Peter Eisenman. I love Peter Eisenman's answer. I don't think I can answer better than him, because that's something that I struggle a lot in Korea too. but I can word it differently. Very similar actually, but it's since entire my life, I think it's the hardest thing and challenging thing, but at the same time, I like to be challenged, and I think that really motivates me to pursue what I believe as a critical thinker, and balance economically safe builder. Something this word is really messed up. All these expressions really messed up, but because that's something I think about every day running a small studio. How do I survive with the staffs and not to lose myself as an architect, who I am. And if I keep pursuing to questioning architecture profession and more leans to challenge the society versus is it safer to be part of the mainstream and do subtly what I believe in. But I guess when I was first starting my studio, I was confident that I should focus to find critical questions and think how architecture can culturally enrich the society. I was confident, and I wasn't afraid to be on that part, because I'm fresh. If I don't question that time, I will never have a question, because I'll be more busier than then. And next year is going to be the 10th year since I start my own studio. So I don't know, maybe I'm also tame like the students. I think it's tame. And nobody gave me the criteria that, after 10 years you have to be more, built or success. But to keep up the team, because back then when I start my own studio with my partner, it was only 2 of us. Now it's not only 2 now by myself, but I have staffs to take care of, and I have families to take care of, and there is expectation from the society, and nobody really pushed me to concern about it. But it's hard to balance in between.